Good afternoon, Jorge Valero with Bloomberg. I have two questions. First, about a candidate country that is not here, Ukraine. President Zelensky offered in an open letter talks with Russian President Putin. So my question is, how quickly are you aiming to bring Putin to the negotiating table? And secondly, a question on China, which is one of the big topics being discussed in Brussels ahead of the summit. There's been a lot of talk and discussion about new tools. Commissioner Šefčovič just mentioned that there is time for a diversification tool, but the problem in the past has been the political will. So my question is, what makes you think that this time is really different and the countries, especially Germany, are really united behind this tougher stance? Thank you.
Should I? Will you?
Well, regarding the first question, since the 24th of February 2022, all of us are fighting for a just and lasting peace in Ukraine, and all the means are important to achieve a just and lasting peace in Ukraine. Increase our pressure on Russia to support Ukraine, and of course support also Ukraine in their peace negotiations efforts. Is our position always the same: support Ukraine, and looking at the same time looking forward in the future of Ukraine in the European Union. And the great news from this week is now we are unblocking this process, and as Prime Minister Magyar said, we can presume that in 3 weeks it's possible to deblock this accession process. Is very good news.
Yes, I can only underline that it shows no one wants more peace than the people of Ukraine and the President of Ukraine. And he has our full support what the content of the letter is concerned. On China, you know our general approach. It is very clear: de-risk, not decouple. What we want is dialogue, but dialogue has to deliver. We like competition, but competition has to be fair. And we want access to the Chinese market that shows reciprocity in what the Chinese are offering to our companies. And therefore, it is a whole concept that we're working on towards China. We have a toolkit of different instruments, but for us it's important to really have this order that I just mentioned: de-risk, not decouple, have dialogue that delivers, embrace competition but protect against unfair competition, and make sure that the access to the respective markets is reciprocal.
Thank you. The next question is reserved for the regional media representatives. We have one over there, please.
Dusan Mlađenović, N1 Serbia. A question for the EU officials. Your comment on the Serbia EU path, especially regarding democracy, rule of law, freedom of media, which is backsliding in last 2 years especially. And there is the fact that Serbia has not opened a single cluster since December 2021. And I'm asking this question because people in Serbia today, through a majority of pro-government media and tabloids, can only see hugs and kisses between you and President Vučić. Thank you.
So it's very clear the accession process is a merits-based process. As we said, it's reforms that have to be delivered. And indeed, the rule of law is a central cornerstone of the accession process. The same goes for media freedom. You know exactly what reforms have to be delivered. It's just judicial reforms. It is the REM Council. It's the electoral law. It's CFSP alignment. I will not go into detail. But here is very clear for Serbia: if Serbia delivers on these reforms, then the third cluster can be opened. Merits-based process, as we just explained. It is a responsibility on two sides. If Serbia delivers, we will also deliver. And it's very clear that the European Union wants Serbia also being part of the European Union, so we support the Serbian society on its path towards the European Union, but it has to fulfill the criteria.
Okay, I just can add that, as I said, the Serbian authorities was very clear to commit it with a very specific calendar. In the coming weeks, they will conclude the judiciary reform, fully complying with all the recommendations from the Venice Commission. The next plenary session of the Venice Commission is the 12th of June, and then immediately after, the Serbian authorities is committed to change the judiciary law in order to comply with all these recommendations. They have already approved 4 laws regarding the recommendations of ODIHR, and they need to approve in the coming weeks more 2 laws to fulfill all the recommendations of ODIHR regarding electoral law. This is the concrete commitment from the Serbian authorities, as in based of these commitments that the Commission will provide their assessment, and the Council will decide if it's time or not to open the 3rd cluster.
Thank you. To conclude, we go once again to international questions. Do we have? Yes.
Thanks. Jack Power from the Irish Times. A question for all three. We also have the Franco-German paper that was proposed about gradual phased entry into the EU, also the idea of associate membership. I just was wondering, in each of your views, does this apply at all to Montenegro, or is Montenegro, I suppose, a separate case because of how far along it is? Thank you.
Well,
Jakob,
You start.
we support your position.
maybe I break the ice. So our understanding is that that paper is a constructive way to engage with the candidate countries, especially with the Western Balkans. It is very much connected to the gradual integration. However, we do believe that the case of Montenegro is a bit unique, given the fact that Montenegro is the only candidate country that has already kicked off the working group with regards to the drafting of our own accession treaty. So that's the way we understand the things, including the paper. However, obviously, as part of a bigger story, it is a constructive way and a creative way to bring all the candidate countries closer to the final goal.
Look, I think the most important is everybody agree that we need to accelerate all the enlargement process. As President von der Leyen said, merit basis doesn't mean a slow process. That means that from the side of the European Union institutions and from the side of the candidate states, everybody needs to work faster and harder. And this is our commitment. On the other side, we can try to simplify the bureaucratic procedures in all of this process. And now it's very positive. There's they are floating several proposals in order to eliminate bureaucracy, perhaps to create some kind of a new omnibus on enlargement in order to move rapidly to conclude this merit-based process. And of course, for the front runners, perhaps it's not like Montenegro is not so important than for other countries.
Yeah. As Antonio said, the merits-based process is supported by all member states. That's the foundation. And now we'll look into the proposals if they are, the goal of these proposals is to improve the process. And this is more than welcome. And we will discuss it, but the baseline is the merits-based process is the foundation, and we want to move forward fast and efficiently.